President Biden jumped right into environmental issues with executive orders regarding the Paris Climate Accord, the pipeline, and a variety of EPA regulations. So we wanted to hear from former DEEP Commissioner Rob Klee with what he has to say about all of this. He's joining us this morning. Thank you so much for your time. First of all, let's just start with your thoughts. He got right to work, and a lot of these involve the environment.
Yeah, really exciting to see. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Real busy on the first few hours of the Biden administration, taking on the climate crisis as one of those four, great challenges. And to me, it really deserves to be there. And it's really interrelated to our pandemic, our economic challenge, and racial and injustice challenges. So doing good by the climate and the environment is a great way to actually bring our economy back and to get people healthier and safer through some of these attempts to undo some of the damage done during the Trump administration.
There have been some criticisms from people saying this could have a negative effect on our economy. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think Connecticut has actually shown, led by example, in how you can have a clean energy economy and have it be vibrant and actually put people to work, making our homes and businesses more efficient, or deploying solar at our homes, businesses, or at schools or in municipal areas. Sorry.
Some kind of message coming in.
Yeah, okay. Someone else was trying to call me.
Oh,
Apologies.
No problem. Go ahead, continue.
You still got me though. So that's to us the great opportunity is for particularly a state like Connecticut, which we don't have fossil resources here, but we have smart engineers and advanced manufacturing and all those sorts of things that I think that this new clean energy economy and investments in clean energy infrastructure is going to need. So I think Connecticut actually will come out pretty well with those types of new federal focus on that part of the economy.
And I understand there's some Connecticut names, or at least people with Connecticut ties, that are going to be working on these issues. How does that benefit our state?
Well, I think first and foremost, Gina McCarthy, former DEP commissioner here in Connecticut, she was also the administrator of EPA or something as well. But she knows our state and our region. Also, former Senator, former Secretary John Kerry, a colleague of mine here at Yale. They understand the real innovation that's been happening at the state level. It's actually, including the new EPA administrator, Michael Regan, another state level person. So to me, the states have really led the way, particularly in the last 5 years or so, on innovation. So I think bringing those state level innovations to the national stage is fantastic. And for folks who know, and Gina Raimondo in Rhode Island at the head of commerce, again, knows our New England situation, and really the leadership here in this region is really exciting to see down in Washington.
All right. Former DEEP Commissioner Rob Klee, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right.